Sports betting is a growing epidemic amongst many young men. The amount of young men between the ages of 18 and 25 taking part in it is expanding rapidly, especially following the US Supreme Court overturning a ban on it in 2018.
The Supreme Court has ruled that states have the power to legalize sports betting. The case came from New Jersey, a state that fought for years to legalize sports bets at casinos and racetracks. Brenda Flanagan of NJTV News has that background.
Dennis Drazen runs Monmouth Park, a racetrack that expanded its bar and lounge to accommodate sports wagering, betting New Jersey would win its decade-long court battle to overturn the federal ban on legalized sports betting in most states. Major League Sports fought New Jersey all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which today ruled that ban is unconstitutional, a David versus Goliath victory for the former legislator who filed Jersey's lawsuit.
Fighting every step of the way, having no one believed that I could win, and now finally coming home with a victory and the benefits to the state. It's sweet. It's a sweet feeling.
Some news outlets are even declaring this a public health crisis. And this very issue has been addressed on financial podcasts as well as late-night talk shows.
The fastest growing addiction that is destroying young men in their 20s is online sports gambling. FanDuel is a portal to hell. DraftKings ain't king of nothing except their own pocketbook. And they're screwing an entire generation of young men because you don't win. That's why they can afford to buy ads. They're back-to-back ads every time you turn on a sporting event. They're spending billions of dollars. You know where they're getting that? It's out of your kid's freaking pocket because they're screwing an entire generation. This is evil stuff right here.
To give you more context into just how much this industry has boomed in the last few years, in the US alone, the amount of people who placed bets on sports in 2017 was estimated around 4.9 billion. However, after the lift of the ban, this increased to 121 billion in 2023. Now in the UK, the culture around sports betting looks different to the US. For many people growing up, they would have thought that betting on sports was normal. If anything, it was kind of seen as very much part of the sport. Estimates show that over 24 million Britons participate in online as well as land-based sports gambling at least once a month. That shows 44% of the UK's adult population participate in sports betting, with around 5.1% of the country's population being regulars. But the rise in sports betting is definitely not without its consequences, especially for young men, as many of them are developing gambling addictions, which are crippling their finances, their relationships, as well as their mental health. Within this article, they spoke to a 20-year-old college student who discussed the details of his own personal addiction, stating, quote, "I first realized I might have had a problem when I started checking the odds first thing in the morning. I'd wake up, grab my phone, and open Prize Picks before even looking at my texts. Sometimes I'd bet, sometimes I'd just check the lines. Then I'd look again between classes and during meals. I wasn't losing a ton or falling out, but it started affecting me a lot. When my bets hit, I felt on top of the world. But when they lost, I felt like an idiot. I couldn't concentrate on school or even hang out with my friends." Others have started to connect and communicate with each other on forums such as Reddit to discuss the details of their own struggles with gambling addiction, like this person who wrote, "I'm 24 and have a serious sports betting addiction. Ever since New York City allowed sports betting, I have been constantly betting for the past year. Originally, I was up 1.4k, then I lost 8k by placing bets every day. I was able to cut the 8k loss down to 4k, but this last week I lost 8.2k, and now I'm seriously depressed as one loss has led me to chase odds, increase my unit size, and revenge betting. Now I keep thinking if I put more in, I'll make back my losses. Yet I've been losing constantly, and I can't understand how to stop myself from digging into a deeper hole." Al Jazeera produced a documentary titled The Big Gamble: The World of Online Sports Betting in the US, and this was for their Fault Line series. Within the documentary, they speak to many young men and they discuss their experiences with online sports betting, and they speak to one particular man who details how his particular sports betting spiraled into addiction.
As online sports gambling becomes more mainstream, there's fear of a growing addiction crisis. Calls to gambling helplines have skyrocketed.
My whole life is on my phone. I had Instagram and Facebook when I was 13. I got Snapchat right around the same time.
He didn't know anything about sports betting until he went to college. Not long after arriving on campus, he placed his first ever sports bet.
Did you ever have, like, you were up a lot of money at some point?
I once won a DraftKings pool for $6,000 off of like a $20 entry.
It must have escalated pretty quickly there, huh?
You can only watch one game at a time, but you can bet on 30, or just world soccer in general. It's on 24 hours a day. It would not be irregular for me to be in bed on my phone from, call it 8 a.m. to noon or even later, 4 games on at once, betting all of them, betting, Bulgarian, Romanian.
He told us he lost more than $50,000 gambling.
Every deadline I set for myself, I'll stop betting when I turn 21. I mean, that was a joke. Stop betting when I graduate college. Stop betting when I start working. Stop betting when I turn 22. I blew through every deadline.
How did it affect your relationships?
I would be visiting my girlfriend and I would just go in with my phone, sit on the toilet, rattle off 10 bets. All of a sudden, my girlfriend doesn't know I have $2,000 in betting risk. Those moments, I would think to myself in the corner of my brain, like, am I a sociopath?
If you have someone 18, even 22, their ability to make good decisions and the impulsivity still isn't fully developed. Then you put something like a gambling app on a phone, and there's no speed bumps or guardrails, there's nothing to slow them down. It's a perfect storm.
What's dangerously unique about this type of gambling is that for many young men who take part in it, they don't even view it as gambling. And many of them don't even view their addiction as an addiction.
Ever since I started, I haven't stopped. I mean, you can call it addiction, but I think it's just dedication. Yeah.
And this definitely makes it a lot harder for them to even detect that they have a problem, because for many of them, sports betting is just a part of being a sports fan. And for some of them, they even view it as a side hustle.
Today's question comes from Jason in Illinois. Jason writes, my question is about income from a side hustle. I recently began sports betting and have built up a bankroll of about $4,000. So his side hustle is gambling. My wife and I have about $55,000 in total debt, excluding the house. We earn about $61,000 a year. I'm a saver, said the gambler. My wife is a spender.
The reason why many sports bettors don't view it as gambling is because they view their bets as being based on knowledge and analysis rather than just pure luck. Also, a lot of betting apps look like stats or trading platforms, which reinforces the idea of strategy and makes people feel more like traders rather than gamblers. Not to mention, small frequent bets also hide the risk. So what often happens is that their losses often feel more like bad predictions rather than gambling losses. Now, the explosion of sports gambling is hardly a surprise when you consider just how much money has been invested into marketing. There are so many sports betting advertisements now on every single match that people are watching, on top of the fact that they've been hiring very popular celebrities to also market their apps.
But today, it's time to bet on something new. Football players. I'm making my bet on who's going to win. And you can bet with me or against me on Fanatics Sportsbook.
Smartphones have created the kind of access that previous gambling operators could have only dreamed of. Because unlike the casino or lottery tickets or even slot machines, they now can access you in the comfort of your own home. They can simply create these apps and bring the house to you. The ability to place bets on your phone through these apps is definitely a very large part of why there's this sudden rise in betting. Push notifications also remind users to come back to the apps. Live odds are constantly changing and viewable, allowing them the ability to demand attention like social media apps. And this fundamental difference has completely changed the game for sports betting. These new technologies have allowed them access to people who would have never really engaged in betting if their phones didn't make it so easily accessible.
How important is it that you can do this through a phone as opposed to going to a sports book?
It definitely makes me a lot more inclined if I can do it from like my phone or laptop than like physically going somewhere to place the bet.
How many times have you actually gone and placed a sports bet somewhere?
Maybe never.
And this is exactly why these betting apps are a huge issue for young men in particular, because they are essentially targeting pre-existing habits that have already been very much established by social media apps. These gambling apps essentially mimic pre-existing social media apps through providing endless scrolling feeds, of live and upcoming matches. They also have variable rewards to reinforce repeated checking. They also provide personalized markets based on past behavior, similar to how social media algorithms provide you more content based on what you've watched before. These apps will encourage you to place bets based on other bets you've placed in the past. They also have streaks like Snapchat to encourage you to go back on the app every day. And they just generally try to make the betting process as frictionless as possible so that you're more enticed to place more and more bets because there really isn't anything holding you back. And how they manage to do this is through features like one-tap bets or instant rebetting, which keeps you just continuously making more and more and more bets without you having to constantly enter your card details or anything like that might slow the process down or make you actually think harder or think for a bit longer before you place that bet. It keeps you in this loop and it keeps you on the app for even longer.
Addiction is intensified, he says, by how much the gambling companies know about each user.
This is just for one.
Recently, Zarb Cousin was able to use Britain's public information laws to access data the betting company Flutter, owner of FanDuel, had on a UK customer. That data was used to tailor offers and push notifications to keep the guy in action.
What'd you learn? So about 93 different data points they had on this individual were when they bet, what offers worked, what inducements worked. On this particular one, he played slots for 3 to 4 days straight. They knew the life stage, the customer life stage he was at, so win back, they described it. So people that have given up gambling for a while and they're trying to get them to come back. There's also like 2,514 deposits in a year, which is about 7 a day.
So these gambling companies that know when we're most impetuous, that there's reams and reams of data on us. What kind of match is that for the adolescent male?
It's not a fair, exactly, it's not a fair wager.
Do they have enough data to pinpoint potential problem gamblers?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. They know the people that are addicted.
Flutter insisted to us that the company does take steps to protect their term vulnerable customers, sometimes banning them outright. The two largest sports books in the U.S., DraftKings and FanDuel, said the same, though declined to provide specific instances when they've done so.
And all of this has definitely reshaped how young sports fans are now engaging with the sports that they watch.
The online gambling industry has had young men in its gun sights since the very beginning. So we've gone from collecting sports cards of your favorite athletes and putting posters on the wall, and now it's all about parlay bets, in-play wagering.
Not only have these betting apps made betting so much easier and more straightforward for people, they have also interestingly made betting more complex, meaning it's easy for you to place a bet, however the kinds of bets that you can place are now more sophisticated. So before you could bet on more simple things like the kind of outcome that you expect from a match, who you expect to win, etc. But now you can place multiple bets that you think are going to happen within the game as the game is playing. These betting apps essentially allow you to now bet on all the different finer details of what you think is going to happen in the match. And they do this through what they call parlays in the US. These are also called accumulators here in Britain.
Apps also heavily push more complicated types of bets to customers, like parlays, where multiple different things have to happen for a bet to pay off. For instance, you might bet that the Warriors will win, Steph Curry will score 30, Draymond will get at least 1 3, and GP2 will be dressed like the basketball Hamburglar. If all 4 of those things happen, you win big, but if only 3 hit, you lose your whole bet. People love parlays because there is a chance they might pay off huge. Companies love parlays because they generally don't. Experienced gamblers actually call parlays sucker bets because of just how seldom they pay off. In fact, one study of 3 states with legalized gambling found that while parlays made up just over a quarter of all money wagered, they make up over half these companies' revenues.
Now, parlay bets have also made life a lot more difficult for athletes. People have become a lot more hostile towards athletes because a lot of the time the kind of parlay bets that people are placing is based on what they think the players are going to do within the game. And so when the players don't end up doing what they predicted within their parlay bet, they of course lose their money and they take it out on the players.
I mean, if I were to look at my mentions right now, I'm sure the majority of them are about me fucking up somebody's parlay. I mean, LeBron, more than likely, if I have a good game, it's just like, yeah, you're supposed to. If you have a bad game, it's like, why fuck up my parlay? It's like, I'm sorry, John.
Athletes they may say, hey, we don't care about parlays, but they care about it because it affects them. Mentally it affects them, and They don't want to have to come to a game and be worrying about their own fans cheering them or booing them because they didn't make the parlay. They supposed to get 25 points, but they got 22, 23 points. And what it does is it changes the narrative of the game. There's just so much that comes along with that. So, yes, it do needs to be some ramifications around it, and I'm sure the powers that be are looking into that.
Speaking of athletes, there are some who are concerned about corruption and how sports betting can affect the integrity of sports due to the fact that some athletes have gotten themselves involved in some betting scandals.
All right, now to a more serious basketball story. The NBA has issued a lifetime ban to the Toronto Raptors' Jontay Porter for violating the league's gambling rules. Contessa Brewer is here with the details. Contessa.
So, Tyler and Leslie, what we found out is that the Raptors forward Jontay Porter allegedly bet not only on basketball, but also on his own team. DraftKings had said that prop bets for Porter for a couple dates earlier in the year were the biggest winners that day. The NBA said a league investigation found that Porter violated league rules by disclosing confidential information to sports bettors, by limiting his own participation in one or more games for betting purposes, and betting on NBA games. The league says Porter intentionally limited his play against Sacramento March 20th, claiming he was sick. What's more, he allegedly told someone ahead of time who then used that information to make an $80,000 parlay bet. It was not paid. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver previously had called a lifetime ban the ultimate extreme option at his disposal for discipline. Clearly, he felt like it was necessary here. This is the first time an NBA player has received a lifetime ban for gambling.
Now, personally, I'm very doubtful that sports betting will ever really stop. It's been around for a long time. It's making people a lot of money, which gives them no incentive to stop. But there is also the issue of preying on gambling addicts, as this is baked into the business model, as most of their revenue comes from people with a moderate to high gambling addiction.
86% of online gambling profits come from 5% of the gamblers. The gambling industry business model, whether it's state lotteries, regional casinos, online gambling operators, it's based on the addicted gambler. The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
And it also doesn't help that it's not only gambling operators who benefit from all of this. Many sports leagues are also making a ton of money since the legalization. Then there is also the added bonus that sports betting simply increases people's engagement. People are much more likely to watch matches, they're much more likely to watch for longer if they've placed a bet on it.
The data is clear that if somebody has a bet on a game, even a small bet, they're much more likely to engage in that match. They're much more likely to watch it. They're more likely to watch it for more minutes. They're more likely to be interested in the participants and to follow the sport. So there's no doubt there's a business component to this.
So with all these incentives, these companies are very invested in keeping sports betting around for as long as they can. And with increasing demand, that's looking like a very long time. And to be honest, sports betting is only the tip of the iceberg. I was talking to my husband about this because he knows a lot more about sport than I do, and I was shocked to discover that it's not just sports that people are betting on these days. Apparently you can pretty much bet on anything. You can bet on how many records an artist is going to sell. You can also bet on the weather. People were betting on what kind of weather we were going to have for Christmas this year. I honestly had no idea that nowadays you can bet on pretty much anything, but apparently that's the time we're living in. You can literally bet on anything. And now as well, because we have smartphones where we're all interconnected with each other, there is always an event happening. So compared to before, where people would have mostly bet on things that were happening in their own countries, you can now bet on things that are happening in other countries as well. So no longer do you have to wait for an event to take place for you to place a bet. There will always be an event taking place because we're all so interconnected now that if no event is happening in your country, there will be an event happening somewhere else that you can bet on. Which is probably another reason why it's becoming a lot more addictive for many young people. And with all the new modern technology, it seems to be very much focused on enticing young men, or to be honest, young people in general. Because as I was looking more and more into this, as I said, sports betting is the tip of the iceberg. And despite it being very, very profitable, I was shocked to learn that this is not even necessarily their biggest hitter. If they haven't already, they have big plans to bring slot machines to you.
Sports gambling operators raked in nearly $11 billion in 2023, but they still see room to grow in the iGaming space. iGaming is an industry euphemism for online casino gambling like roulette or slot machines. On a recent earnings call, the CEO of DraftKings referred to it as an unlocked gem for the company.
I think a lot of people are sort of sleeping on it a little bit and maybe are just focused on how big the sports side can be and not realizing the iGaming side can make the business even larger.
Sports gambling gets people in the door, right? And while they make money from it, where they make the most money is getting you to transition over to the online casino portion of it. So FanDuel, DraftKings, at their base, these guys are online casino operators.
In Pennsylvania, people lost $1.7 billion in 2023 to casino-style wagering on mobile devices, more than 3 times the amount lost on sports betting. It's one of only 7 states where this type of gambling is legal. Kavita's preferred game is called Slingo, a casino-style game resembling bingo.
Think about it as a slot machine spin for
a few seconds.
1 second for $12,000. I think there were days where I started gambling at 10 p.m. and had lost like $2,000 by 11 and spent from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. trying to get that money back and failing, and then finally going to bed at 4. Getting up and doing it again the next day.
She was chasing her losses. For compulsive gamblers, it can be a vicious cycle.
If you're a citizen that shows the likelihood of chasing your losses, which is the #1 indicator of somebody who's an addicted gambler, like you chase your losses, you as a gambling operator, like that should be an immediate check, like, hey, we need to stop this. This is a person we shouldn't be marketing to.
DraftKings took the opposite approach and assigned her a VIP host to keep her in action.
Now, the addiction of all of this makes perfect sense. A lot of people are addicted to their phones, so if you can get them addicted to something within the thing that they're addicted to, then it's an instant win on your part in terms of keeping them hooked. But maybe at some point, most likely after a lot of damage has already been done, people will start to have the same view on this that we have about smoking. Because I think the main problem with sports betting is the fact that it's so normalized. So because it's not really seen as such a big deal, I think that's why it's so popular. But maybe in the future, after a lot of bad things have happened, people will start to view it in the same way they view smoking. It will be something that not necessarily banned or made illegal, but the cultural attitude towards it might become more negative and people might start to engage in it a little bit less. Maybe governments might step in and stop it from being promoted and for example, ban advertisements within sports games or ban advertisements on social media and within television. That could also be a thing that perhaps happens, where it's still something you can engage in because it's not illegal, but it's not something that's pushed, promoted, or normalized as much. And I'm both fascinated and horrified about what the future of all of this is going to look like now that the US is now a big player in this. We'll see what happens, but I can't imagine it's going to be great. For normal people anyway. For the big dogs who are running this stuff, it's going to be fantastic for them. But for your average everyday person, it's looking like debt. But I would like to know what you think about all of this. What do you think will be the future of all of this? Do you think that it will get worse? Do you think it will settle down? Or do you think it will get worse, then settle down, which is what I predict will most likely happen? And I would like to know if you've had experience with these apps. Have you personally used them? Do you know people who have used them? I'd be very interested to know what your general thought is on all of this. If you found this video interesting, why not like and subscribe? Thank you so very much for giving me your time today. I will see you in my next video.